Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you all for joining us today, taking this time out to join us today for this informational meeting out of your busy schedules. My name is Cadelia Troublefield. I am the face behind all of those flyers that you all have been receiving about this, the Greensboro disparity study. I am with Griffin and Strong, which is a public policy consulting firm based out of Atlanta, Georgia. I am the deputy project manager that is on this specific Greensboro disparity study. On this call, I do have Ms. Michelle Clark Jenkins. She is the senior head of the consulting division of Griffin and Strong. She is also the project manager on this study. She will be answering any questions that you all have today. And I do believe that we also have our sub-consultants on this call as well, Mr. Gary McCants, and I believe Ms. Bridget Wall-Lennon is on the call as well. They are both our local sub-consultants who you all will be hearing from regarding our anecdotal component of the study. So the main purpose of this meeting today is to basically educate you all on this disparity study and let you all know that it is happening and how you all can get involved, because we do hope for public engagement with you all. So we do have a brief presentation for you, and then we will open up the floor for any questions or comments that you all may have. Michelle, okay. Okay, so just a little brief bio about Griffin and Strong. As I did say, we are a law and public policy consulting firm based out of Atlanta, Georgia. We specialize in disparity research, contract compliance, program development, training, and supplier diversity consulting. We are the most qualified in this industry. We have 5 Juris Doctorates, 2 PhD economists, a PhD in anthropology, and a PhD in psychology, and all have expertise with disparity research. And this, just to let you all know that no study done by Griffin and Strong has ever been challenged or overturned in court. So this is our founder, Mr. Rodney Strong. He is a project executive over all of our disparity studies. He was also the project manager on the first major municipal disparity study ever done, and he was the architect for the City of Atlanta's MWBE program, which is now like a model for the nation. And then also we have our principal investigator, Dr. Egan, who is one of the most foremost experts nationwide, and he was the expert witness on the controlling case in this jurisdiction. Yeah, next slide. So just to give you a brief overview of what a disparity study is, it's an objective research tool that determines whether there are disparities in a governmental agency's procurement activities with either certain race, ethnic, and gender groups in various industry categories. And then it also further determines whether those disparities are statistically significant and likely caused by the race and gender status of firm owners. These studies measure disparities between the utilization and availability for these for race, gender, and ethnic groups. And these disparity studies also utilize we also use anecdotal evidence, and also we examine policy, procedures, and practices and a law review to basically back up what we do find. And then the findings of this disparity study will result in recommendations by the study team to remedy any discrimination or disparities found. And then if there are any disparities that we do find, we then do recommend anything that can remedy those disparities. So just a little bit of background on why we do conduct disparity studies. The purpose of disparity studies is based on a couple of Supreme Court cases and the HB Roe versus Tippett case. Disparity studies were formed to provide the factual basis for any remedial contracting programs. The court issued that these programs must pass having strict scrutiny, meaning there must be a factual basis and evidence that there is a need for these type of programs. And it basically says that these programs, they must be narrowly tailored towards those disparities if they are found. So it's not over or under inclusive. All right, now, so we're just going to get a little bit into the methodology for our disparity studies. We do have a lot of pieces inside of the studies, which usually causes us to have these disparity studies for over a year or so. We first start off with analyzing legal, and then we look into the policy, and then I will also hit on each step more, but this is just a map of how it's laid out over the year. And then we also collect and clean data. We have a relevant market analysis, and then we also have a utilization and threshold analysis, and then availability and disparity analysis, and then a private sector analysis. And then also an anecdotal evidence and collection analysis, which we hope that you all will be participating in. And then we wrap it up with a final report with recommendations. All right, so I did hit on the law part of it, but the policy review of it, the policy review consists of us interviewing the city staff and looking at the policies and practices that are implemented on a day-to-day basis. The framework for the review focuses on looking at these questions as you see. Do policies present a barrier to MWBE firms? Are these policies understood by staff, and can these policies be modified to promote inclusion? And is there a discrepancy in policy and in its implementation? Next slide. So the data part is one of our main components of the study. We are very hands-on with our data. We do collect data from the city, and then also we clean that data, and then we also make sure to be very transparent with the city, and we keep them informed of anything that we may find. And they also review the data that we end up cleaning and everything before we start getting into the analysis part. So we do start off with a relevant market analysis, basically to look at the firms that the city has done business with. We basically take it and we just broaden out that area, the survey area, to get like a 75% match of the payments of the firms that are within that geographical area. And then we also disaggregate by categories such as construction, or like the study groups for each disparity study. We disaggregate them by those actual groups. And then that's pretty much it for the relevant market. Next slide. So then we do a utilization analysis. The utilization analysis, we look at the prime and subcontractors utilized within that relevant market area that I just talked about. And we break it out by work category and race and ethnic and gender status. And then we follow up with a threshold analysis, which basically looks at the level of contracts. And if the reason why there is a disparity study is because of larger contracts, so then we look at if there is any disparities if those larger projects are taken out. Next slide. And then we do an availability analysis. We combine lists of firms to see those firms that are trying to seek public sector work, and it factors in the contract size, business size, and experience. And then for our disparity analysis, so we compare those firms that are available to their utilization to get a disparity index, which shows if there is a disparity based on the study groups for the project. And then we test to see if the disparity is large or statistically significant. And then we follow up with a regression analysis, which looks at other controlled factors that could play a role in two disparities, such as looking at the business size, looking at the experience, education status, age, things of that nature. And then we do a private sector analysis, which looks at the utilization of firms based on race and gender outside of the public sector. And we look at that within self-employment, building permit data in the credit markets, and also such as things like loan denials, because that also kind of gives like a factual basis for disparities in that nature. Next slide. And then we have our anecdotal evidence and community engagement, which is something that you all are a part of today. So this is basically where we like to try and get engaged with the community, kind of hear your voices and the experiences that you all have had with doing business or attempting to do business with the city. We start off with the informational meeting, which you all are a part of today, basically learning about the disparity study and how you all can be a part of it. And then we will have anecdotal interviews, which will be done by one of our sub-consultants, Mr. Gary McCants. He will be reaching out to basically have a one-on-one interview with you to basically see your experience doing business with the city or attempting to do business, or if you haven't, why haven't you, questions such as that. We do launch a survey of business owners as well to basically mark any of those, if there's any trends going on. So we also do hope that you all will be able to fill out the survey whenever we have that launched. That will be down the line, so you don't have to worry about that right now. We will also have public hearings. We will host a couple of public hearings where we get to actually hear your thoughts, your opinions, or concerns, and positive feedback as well. It doesn't have to be negative. We also want to hear about the positive things that you all may have to say about the city of Greensboro. And then we also do focus groups, which is kind of like our anecdotal interviews, but it's more so in a group session. And then we also reach out to the local organizations that are hands-on with business owners, such as the local NAACP chapter, local chamber of organizations of that nature. And then if you do not feel comfortable in participating in any of these meetings or sessions that we will hold, we do have a designated study email, which I will show you at the end of this presentation, where you can send any comments or any feedback that you would like for us to give that you want to be noted inside of this study. Next slide. And then it's wrapped up with our findings and recommendations. So GSPC will compare findings of the current study to the findings of the previous study done. Recommendations, they are based on detailed policy review, anecdotal evidence, and institutional knowledge. And then based on those recommendations, we basically can say, give you recommendations based that are race and gender neutral or race and gender conscious remedies. And then we will also provide support, consultation services to the city for 1 year after the completion of the study. So this is a projected timeline of the disparity study. Right now, we are still in the midst of the beginning phase. We have our informational meeting right now, and then we have launched the website for the disparity study that you all can go look at and be updated with. I will also share that link at the end of this presentation. After that, we will start our policy review, and we will begin collecting any data and then preparing for the data analysis part. And then we will be launching the survey of business owners later on, maybe at the beginning of next year. And then we will start preparing to collect any anecdotal evidence. So having those public hearings, those focus groups, and those anecdotal interviews, that will be towards the beginning of next year. And then in the summer, we hope to wrap up everything with the study. So as I also mentioned, we also want you all to be involved. We do advocate for the public to be involved, because just as important as the data part is, hearing from you all in the community is just as important. So we want you all to be vocal. We want you all to complete the survey, agree to participate in these interviews, and attend a public hearing, and agree to participate in a focus group, because this study is for the betterment of the business community inside of the Greensboro area. So that is why we want you all to participate in this. We also would like for you to leave comments on our designated studies website, which is greensborostudy@gspclaw.com. I monitor that email daily, so I will look at those comments that you all will leave. And then you can also connect with us more. You can check out our website and our social media platforms. And then you could also learn more about the study and upcoming events for the study at greensborodisparitiesstudy.com. And that's it. It was just a brief little presentation for everybody. I hope that that gave you a lot of insight into this disparity study. And now we will open up the floor for questions, if you have any, or comments.
Before we go any further, I want to make sure that we acknowledge Councilperson Sharon Hightower from District 1. I'm not sure that I see any other council members on.
Yes, I'm here, Mary Kay Luzawader, yes.
Okay. I wanted to acknowledge all council people who are on this call. So I'd open the floor first for you all to make comments.
Yeah, one former council member, Cameron Cook, on the call as well, Michelle.
All right. You're welcome to unmute.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Sharon Hightower, I'm Councilwoman for District 1, as Michelle stated. And for many of you on the call who know me, know that I've been a huge advocate for MWBE. So this disparity study is just a part of what we need to do to make sure we continue the program at the city and to become more and more inclusive in our outreach for growing our business sector, particularly our MWB, our minority and women business sector, to get city contracts. So I am certainly glad that Griffin and Strong is going to be doing this study. I look forward to the results. We still have a lot of work to do. So just know that this is just the beginning. I hope everyone will be very involved and interactive and come to the table with open minds and understanding that this is the way that we must grow this city, by making sure that as our city grows, Black and brown, we've got to be inclusive in that population to help economically improve the city that we live in. So thank you all for doing this and for being here today.
Councilperson at large, Abby Zader.
Yes, thank you. I don't think I can sum it up any better than Mrs. Hightower just has. And it is very important, and I will certainly be looking forward to what is found in the disparity study this time. And, you know, I think it will be, for me, a good comparison of have we completed some things that are in the last disparity study? What do we still need to work on? I think all of those things are very important to our community. And as Ms. Hightower said, you know, it's certainly something that will move our city forward if we can attend to this and try to, you know, mitigate some of the disparities that are currently happening. Thank you.
Okay, great. Okay, and I think I also see the MWBE manager, Allison Staten. Allison, you wanna?
Good afternoon. Yes, thank you, Michelle. Thank you, everyone who have attended today. And thank council for supporting the MWB office and the 2022 disparity study. If there's anything that we can do to assist in helping to make this a successful project overall, we are partnering with Griffin and Strong. We're partnering with the business community, as stated by Khadija earlier, to make this the best disparity study for the best outcome. Input from the community, input from primes, subcontractor, all that information is needed so that the city of Greensboro can continue to move forward in having a successful program. So thank you all.
Thank you. Okay. So Cordelia, I think we can open the floor now for questions.
Yes. So also thank you to the council members that did speak, and Miss Allison, thank you all so much for being on this call. But yeah, we can open up the floor for any questions or comments.
Ms. Troublefield, this is Marco Varela with CITI. And first of all, I want to thank City Council for, staying behind this program. This program has been instrumental in our success, and I'm the poster child of it. So, I want to do whatever is possible to contribute. Thank you.
I do see a question in the chat room. How long ago was the previous study completed? It was 2018, so we're exactly 5 years since the last, or pretty much 5 years by the time we really complete this study, by the time the next one will be completed. I will emphasize what Cordelia said about you all staying engaged. This is a great turnout today for the informational meeting. We do want to keep you engaged over the next year, particularly, I will tell you, for the survey of business owners. Even if you come to this and you do an interview or you're on a focus group, please also make sure that you fill out the survey. Because you're in attendance today, you will all get the survey directly from us. Please make sure you fill it out. That helps us to quantify what the feelings are, both, again, positive and negative. Make sure that if you have positive things to say, that you are equally engaged, because sometimes when you think things are going well, or you're kind of okay with what's happening, you may not comment. We want to know what it is the city's doing well, and we want to know where there are areas of concern and where you think they could be doing things differently or better to benefit your business's ability to participate in the procurement process. We need both angles. So make sure that you are responding to the survey, and if you're asked to be in an interview, you do participate in the interviews or the focus groups. And again, the public hearings will probably be sometime in the spring. So please come out and, kind of officially go on the record with your comments. And as Cordelia said, if you would rather just send us a story or tell us about your business or about your experiences, we're really asking one big question in all of this anecdotal evidence. We're asking, what are your experiences doing business or attempting to do business with the city of Greensboro? And if you haven't even attempted to do business, why haven't you?
Michelle?
Yes.
My name is Virgil Cobb. One quick question. What are the consequences for non-compliance to the program plan? Is there any?
You mean by the city itself?
whatever agency is supposed to comply, like the city?
So we are researchers, so we bring to the city's attention where, the findings of our study, and we make recommendations. The city then will determine what, if all or some or none of our recommendations they choose to accept and implement. On our last study that we did 5 years ago, they did accept our full study and our full recommendations. In terms of, we are not in a position to police the city in terms of what they're doing, but you all are the taxpayers, you all are the voters, so I think that's more falls in your court in terms of how you hold the city accountable in terms of the things that they're doing. But the city has accepted, last time did accept all of our recommendations, and to my understanding has implemented them all.
Thank you.
Councilman Tower, I see you have your hand up.
Okay, thank you. Michelle, and to that last comment you made, yes, we did, I think, approve the recommendations. Have we implemented all of them? No. Okay, we have not. That's what we need to do, but just most recently, we did get the SBE finally approved by the state legislature. So, but that is a critical component of the study, to the recommendations that are handed down to us, that not only do we approve them, we must implement them and do that legally to ensure that we are being complicit. And the other thing I wanted to say, I noticed on this call, there are several city staff members. And so while you're saying the study, the questionnaire is to be done by, by those that are on here, whether they do business with, the city or not, well, there will be opportunity for city departments to come together and have discussion, because I think that's critically important, or ask questions, or be asked questions and then themselves ask questions. And I assume that will be occurring as well.
Yeah, so we do, our policy review, and I think, Allison, you will be having us do a presentation to staff at some point. So yes, those are kind of two different things, which is our outreach to business owners in the community, and then the internal staff updates and information. I also see that somebody said, what is the estimated completion date of the study? We expect it to be done in August of next year, so sometime August, September, approximately a year. And that kind of depends on kind of where we are with the data as well, but we expect a year.
Michelle, real quickly, just wanted to acknowledge that there are several representatives from, even though this is a city study, Guilford County Schools. I see the director of HUB, Dr. Funderburg, and also Michelle Reed is on the call as well. Just want to let you know that.
Well, thank you for joining us. Councilwoman Hightower, you have your hand up again?
No, I thought I took it down. I was trying to take it down. You know how this virtual stuff is. You get your hand up, you can't get it down. Okay, let me try it again.
Do we have more questions?
Okay.
Good afternoon. I have a question, and I don't know if this is to be answered at a later time. I'm curious to know, what is the difference between HUB certification and MBEW BE certification, and then what's the process that a company has to go through for the MBE certification?
So I think the best person on this call to answer that question, Bridget.
Why did I know you were going to toss that to me? Oh, okay. So Derek, you're asking the difference between the hub certification and the DBE certification?
Yes, and then what is the process to go through the MBE certification?
Okay, so there are basically two certifications in the state. Both are free. The first is with the state of North Carolina's Office for Historical Underutilized Businesses. And that certification is pretty much good for not only the state and the various state agencies, but also just the municipalities and local units of government in the state of North Carolina. Now, each of those entities might have a vendor registration process, but that certification is done through the hub office. And the process is they have an online application process. From what I understand, they're currently getting ready to jumpstart doing a new vendor registration. So some of that may change, but basically when you go into the state's vendor registration, you register with the state and then you can initiate your hub certification. So there's a portion that you do online, and then there is a hard copy application that you can email or mail in with your supporting documentation. The second certification in the way that that's different from NCDOT is that NCDOT uses federal guidelines to do their certification. For example, you have to provide additional documentation to NCDOT that you would not necessarily provide to the hub office. So to NCDOT, you'll provide your tax records. Your gross revenues have to be below a certain amount, as does your net worth. And then they certify you based on whether or not you are a minority woman or own business, but also if you are socially and economically disadvantaged. So they got some federal guidelines that they go by for the NCDOT. That's a little bit more in depth than that of the hub office, and that's pretty much the difference between the two.
Right.
Okay,
And the
thank
reason I asked for Bridget Wall-Lennon to answer that question, because she's former director of the hub program for the state and has been a partner with us, with Griffin and Strong, as we do some of these disparity studies across the state. We also did the disparity study for the state of North Carolina and for North Carolina DOT since we did your last study. So we've been busy around the state since we did the Greensboro study. And I will say that after we did the Greensboro study, it really helped us to, kind of understand the impact of the state policies on local governments. So we went to do the state study. I think it really helped us in terms of making their recommendations to the state, because we had a good feel about, how that would impact all of you.
So that's another question, Michelle, on that same subject. Does the state policy for its disparity conclusions have any impact directly or indirectly with the city of Greensboro's study?
Yeah, they do, to the extent that, Greensboro is subject to the state procurement laws. So to the extent that we made recommendations for changes there, and also to the extent that we clarified guidance from the state to the local agencies, it does have an impact. We changed, there were a number of changes even in some of the forms that we recommended the state use. And what happens is a lot of local jurisdictions will then adopt what the state is using. So yeah, I think it does have an impact on you.
A follow-up question to that is that the state changed their good faith 50-point definitions and requirements. Is that applicable to the other municipalities such as the city of Greensboro?
Yeah, so the ordinance in the code ordinance is still reads as it used to, but what we've done is bring some clarity to what that means. And there are some things that you can do, which we recommended under the previous study as well, some things you can do that align with the 50 points. There are some changes that you made after the last study to how you count those 50 points, but the 50 points still exists. It's just kind of how you count them and what weight you give, and things like putting a requirement on it that says, well, one, if you can't get certain points unless you've already gotten the points for some previous things. Like, for example, you can't get the points for prompt pay if you haven't gotten the points for notification, for example.
Okay, thank you.
More questions? Comments? We are really excited to hear about your experiences, particularly those of you, if you have not, I know some firms tend to shy away from participating because you haven't done work with the city. We want to understand why you haven't. Even if you haven't tried, we want to understand, and this is not typically a needs assessment, but in some ways a disparity study does kind of measure what firms need in order to do business. What is it that kept you or has kept you from attempting to do business? And sometimes that goes to the issue of this big category of supportive services that we typically are always going to recommend some kind of supportive services, but what kind we recommend will have a lot to do with your feedback. So very important, you as business owners, that you provide us with some guidance on what it is you need. And I do assure you that the things that you tell us in our anecdotal sessions, whichever one you participate in, that we in some way incorporate that in what we feed back to the city. It'll either be quantified as, certain percentage of firms told us this, or it will be even in the sense of maybe direct quotes or experiences we had in terms of talking with you. So whatever you can, so again, just emphasizing how important your continued participation is in this process. And we are available if you want, again, those comments. Cordelia monitors our email. Cordelia, if you can make sure you've got the email in there again. She monitors that dedicated email. So, if you have things you want to ask us along the way, you somehow want to engage with us, we are available. Okay, any more questions or comments?
Thank you, Michelle.
Cordelia, I'll turn it back over to you.
Okay, so I did go ahead and drop it in the email inside of the chat for everybody, and I'm also going to drop the website as well, so you all can stay updated. Once again, we do want to thank you for coming out today. It was a great turnout. Very great turnout for an informational meeting. So I'm very excited to see that there is some engagement there, that you all do want to be involved with this study. So it's very exciting to me. But yeah, it is. It's not.
Cordelia is in Greensboro.
Oh yeah, that's another thing. I'm also in Greensboro, so I'm really hands-on. So. But yeah, just we want to thank you for coming out, and we do still have a little bit more time on the call, so if anybody still has any more questions or comments they want to say, the floor is still open.
So this meeting, I didn't see your timeline. This is Councilwoman Hightower again. Sorry, my camera's not on. I'm trying to eat some lunch in between all this. When is the next meeting? Because the informational piece is great, but when is that next piece? And when do we start that actual conversation of let's talk about, and I'm ready for the conversations and the questions and interactions. Let's, we got to improve this program 1,000%, more participation, but when do we start that? I'll go back to that question. What's the next one?
Today is really the day to start. So, we have some more time, even on this call, for people who want to have some more of a dialogue and discussion and even tell us about their experiences today. The next group of things is we go into anecdotal interviews, which are one-on-one interviews. Then we'll go into the survey, and the public hearings will kind of overlap with the survey of business owners. That's on purpose, so that anybody who comes to the public hearing, we can kind of coerce you all to remind you to fill out the survey. And so the survey then comes, and then the last thing is really the focus groups, where there's much more of a dialogue, and we start to hone in on things that we've heard. Like if there's something that we heard, we got a really high tick on for the survey during the focus groups, that's when we're really going to try and flesh that out and say, okay, we heard, 50% of you said X, Y, or Z. Tell us about that. Put some meat on the bones for that for us. And so that's really what happens in the focus groups.
Gotcha. Okay.
So that won't happen. So the interviews will happen over the next, start just before Christmas and continue until probably January, early February. The survey will probably be February, and Cordelia, I'm throwing out these dates just roughly, February through the spring, and then probably focus groups in the spring. We'll complete the study late summer.
Yeah, that's pretty much right. You got it around the you have it around the same area that the schedule is set for. And then I also want to add, with us doing the organizational interviews, that's also a very important component of the anecdotal process. So I do want to say that if you all are a part of certain organizations, or if you know of local organizations that are hands-on with business owners, please, you could let me know about those organizations. You could shoot an email or anything like that that you would like for us to interview too. I want to go ahead and put that out too.
Or you can put it in the chat room today if
And
you
that too,
have an
yeah.
organization that you think we need to talk to. Organizations do two things for us. One is we get their input if they would like to be interviewed, to tell us about, their membership and, what they do, and their interactions with the city on behalf of their members. But they also help us to reach out to members to participate in these forums where we maybe don't have access to getting to that list of firms. So we do really need these organizations to come alongside us to help us to get participation and themselves to participate. The third reason for the organizations is what we have found, and this wasn't as much the case when we first did your last study, but we've kind of learned that as we make recommendations, that there are some organizations already in those jurisdictions who might be good partners to the city in terms of, business incubators, or it could be lots of things that we say, listen, this is where businesses need support. And then by talking to the organizations, we find out that they provide that kind of support that, maybe the city doesn't even know about. So we want to make sure that we have as much outreach to social, civic, and trade organizations as possible, because they are possible partners with the city moving forward.
Thank you for answering my question. And I think, and for me, my question derived from, I'm looking on this call today and 57 people showed up, and some of them are staff, I understand that. But if people showed an interest, for me, it's too quiet. So, I mean, I guess you answered all the questions and nobody's got questions, but that concerns me. Because I hear a lot of chatter in the community about this program and the pros and cons of it, and sometimes more cons than pros. And so I would think that people would have some type of questions and how to line up in that. So maybe I'm being devil's advocate today, but That's part of who I am. It's part of who I am, but you know, I would think people would have more interest or more questions, and they are talking to the experts, because you guys are the experts. I will certainly tell you that. So that's why I wanted to know when was, you know, the next step.
If I can piggyback on Councilman's concerns, I think my initial question, I think, was much broader than it was picked up at. And that was, if there's no consequence behind non-compliance of the regulations, it's kind of, you know, no use for having that kind of regulation, because it doesn't amount to anything. In Hightower, I can share with you that there has been a lot of conversation and also written requests and concerns presented to the MWB office, as well as council, as well as management, and to no avail. And Michelle, you're saying that you have these outreach meetings and you are requesting expression of concerns, input. Well, it's kind of like voting. If you don't think or see any results from your input, you kind of don't have the kind of energy placed towards your input rather than running a business. And I think I need to preface a lot of my statements by saying I am committed. I have chosen to be as a volunteer on the goal setting committee. I have chosen to be a volunteer on the coordinating committee. I think I'm still a member of the CMR committee. So this is just not, you know, conversation and walk away. I've been involved in the MWE programs from several states' point of view, for Michigan as well as Ohio, as well as here. So it's, you know, my concern is we're in the third term of a disparity study. And I think that if you extract all of the finagling of counting of participants, it's pretty much flat line. And I appreciate, Michelle, you're saying that you're not the police. I get that. And I think, again, Ms. Hightower, council lady, it is up to the community to stand up and say that we need to have more attention to implementation, because it's very apparent today that the program that council has approved is not being implemented by the powers to be. So anyway, that's what my concern is. And again, I'm not a naysayer. I'm here for the long term.
And if I can speak, Michelle, I do know, and just simply not going into the devil of all the details with Mr. Cobb, you know, on the call, but just what he speaks to. I have heard his concerns in the past, and have gotten his correspondences, and we have connected him to our legal team that kind of oversees MWBE. All our departments have an attorney assigned to them. You know, as anything you do in government, you have to make sure you're legally correct. And so there has been that conversation piece going on there. And while there may not be quite a meeting of the minds, there is that open conversation there about how some things are framed. So, and Mr. Cobb, you know, we certainly are always open to hearing what you say. Your experience and your knowledge is valuable. We don't take it for granted by any means, or dismiss it by any means. You know, it's just sometimes certain things are, as they are drawn up and drafted, and how we have to fit legally into program guidelines. Sometimes there's certain things where they're broad areas, and then there's certain specificities maybe that maybe you're looking more for than the broader perspective that is being out there. So But we continue to discuss, and I hope you know that.
Oh, yes, I do. Thank for your words of encouragement.
Yes, sir. Well, Michelle, I guess you and Cordelia covered it all. Nobody has anything to say.
We're gonna have to fix that.
Well, we have
Yes.
some other opportunities for you all to talk to us. We hope that you will talk to us. You know, again, if you want to send us an email, we do randomly selected interviews. But if you have a burning desire to be individually interviewed and you don't get that request, but you want to be interviewed, you know, you can send again an email, and we kind of put in a different category. It's not a randomly selected one, but we'd be happy to interview you, or you can just send us kind of your thoughts by email. All of them again are taken into account and in some way will be represented in our anecdotal analysis.
Hello, I have a question.
Sure.
So I do apologize. I came on late and I felt like I shouldn't have a question. I apologize. My name is Roxanne. I'm here in Greensboro and I have a small business that I'm trying to grow to a large business. And so I guess my question is, because I did show up late, will there be a replay that can be sent out to me or some information so I can catch up? I certainly do not expect to waste your time to repeat everything you just said. So how can I get that information? And again, my apologies.
Yeah, so this call is recorded, and also thank you for your question. Yeah, but this meeting was recorded. It will be posted on our YouTube channel, and it will be shared onto our website, which I did drop into this chat room. But also, if you would like me to send you the recording, I can do that too. So you have that option as well.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
Questions, comments? We're open to comments, not just questions. Okay, well, we'll hopefully get you all talking a little more to us in the coming months you know, I know our two subcontractors who are on are really familiar. Again, Cordelia's right there in Greensboro. Gary McCants is in Greensboro. Bridget is nearby. And kind of is all over the state. Bridget, you got a little bit of presence everywhere. But they are also available for you to talk to, and they will be conduits to us. So keep talking to us over this next year. We want to hear everything you have to say.
Again, this is Derek Young. I just wanted to thank Mr. Cobb for his question and Councilwoman Hightower for your response, and Griffin and Strong and Michelle. I just wanted to say you all, I feel, are doing a great job.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, we're just getting started, but you know, thank you.
You're starting well.
Yeah, it is interesting to come back to do a second study. You know, we got a lot of familiarity with Greensboro. Again, it was, I think, the first study we actually had done in North Carolina. We've done so many since then, but then coming back and doing another study behind the last one we did, I'm really finding as interest. I really am very interesting to see what we find. And I was very hands-on with the last study, so got to know some of you a little bit in terms of businesses, and so it'll be interesting to see the changes over the last 5 years. You know, what changed and what stayed the same. So that comparison to the last study, I think, will be really interesting.
Okay. Once again, thank you everybody for coming out. If nobody else has any more questions or comments, we can go ahead and wrap up the call. I do want to thank Mr. Virgil for voicing his concerns and his questions. I do believe that was a great start to go ahead and ignite the conversation that needs to be had. So I do want to thank you for that, and thank you for everybody for this great turnout. I'm looking forward to hearing from everyone. And yeah, if nobody else has any more comments or questions, then we can go ahead and conclude this meeting today.
Thank you, everyone.
Very much.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.